King David the Builder was responsible for the unification of Georgia in the 12th century and the introduction of many democratic reforms. Georgia is on the Black Sea, with Russia to the north, Turkey and Armenia to the south, and Azerbaijan to the south and east.
The intersection of Rustaveli and Pushkin.
Tbilisi, the capital, is centrally located and is surrounded by the beautiful Caucasus Mountains.
Fix it here. And I don't know if we're going to get the should start walking. They are, oh, they're turned up. Look at that.
Just about everyone here does have a cell phone. We are looking at the Parliament building. Most of the demonstrations against the government begin here.
A church. Sorry, I don't think it's a mosque.
Nearly all Georgians are Christians and members of the Georgian Orthodox Church.
The architectural hall or building costs 40 tetri to go in there.
That's 20 cents. The Hotel Iberia, a former Soviet hotel, now houses Abkhazian refugees. These refugees have been here for 3 years, awaiting the opportunity to go home to their native province. This is a typical Soviet facade, just big and concrete. There are many excellent artists in Georgia. Artists are well respected in Georgia.
Reproductions of the icons. Goes on quite a ways.
The most interesting part of Georgia, of course, are the people. Despite all their hardships, they always seem to have a smile.
It's McDonald's. One of the two.
The literacy rate here is 99%, much higher than in the U.S.
Microsoft.
A relaxing getaway from the hustle and bustle of a big city.
Locomotive Stadium.
This is home to the Georgian national rugby and soccer teams. Looking down on Vake Park. Vake Park is a World War II memorial.
Vake Park. Fountain's not going.
Georgia is filled with these old Soviet concrete buildings.
Oh, must be laundry day.
When you average 2 hours a day of electricity, every day is laundry day.
You should feel goofy with that thing on your hands. Looks like your hair. You take it just straight.
It's looking the wrong way.
These produce and dairy markets are throughout Georgia. Because of infrequent electricity, people do not have refrigerators. Therefore, they must shop daily.
Born out of college.
Agriculture is the Georgians' main industry. The produce is always fresh, but to Georgians, rotten does not necessarily mean inedible. Just ask Barbara. On our way to the old capital of Metsketa, we stop at the Dzhugashvilli Monastery. Built in the 6th century.
Who's that?
This early Middle Ages church is typical of the cupola and cross church, as they're referred. Despite the high quality of masonry during that time, it still needs work, and the Georgian government just doesn't have the money to restore this.
This is the wall, part of the wall that defended the monastery.
Built around the 12th century.
From here, they could look across the water. Usually, the enemies came up the water, followed the river up.
From the Dzhugashvilli Monastery, we overlook the ancient capital of Metsketa and the confluence of the Kura and Aragvi rivers.
Wait. On the Bari River.
Okay, so it's the Kura River,
Metsketa?
and we're looking at the Sveti Skolaveli Cathedral. And on this great bell is the patron saint of Georgia, St. George.
Stuck up there. Broken foot. This is an echo chamber. A long distance away. You can hear a voice.
This church is a reliquary said to contain the robe of Christ. Heading north into the northern Caucasus from Tbilisi, we encounter narrow roads and high mountains. The roads are very treacherous as there are no safety precautions. But the majestic views, such as this of Mount Kazbegi, the third largest mountain in Georgia, are fantastic. This mountain is over 5,000 meters in height. The small town of Kazbegi, with its very friendly people, went out of their way to show us a good time. After visiting the Russian border, we four-wheeled up to see the Grigeti Monastery. This 12th century monastery is surrounded by gorgeous, majestic mountains. We now come to the lower Caucasus Mountains, just above the Turkish and Armenian borders. This fortress was built in the 10th and 11th centuries and served as an administrative center. Below the fortress on the cliffs are many monks' caves. The fortress and the town of Tamogbi were destroyed by earthquakes in the 11th and 13th centuries. This 12th century church is being restored. A famous town existed here as early as the 4th century BC. Despite the exposure to the weather, there is still evidence of the early frescoes. Agriculture is the major industry in Georgia. The Sapara Monastery complex was built in the late 13th and early 14th centuries. It is clear that defense was much in the founders' minds. The complex is accessible only by one road and can be seen from only a few perspectives. The drum of the cupola is actually 16-sided, not round. These frescoes are among the best preserved in Georgia. Originally, the interior of the church was completely frescoed, but these were plastered over in the 19th century.
Apses were adorned with this composition: Saint John and the Virgin asking for mercy. In the second register, we see the blood of Jesus and the Eucharist in the shape of body of Jesus. And in the last register, there are church fathers, bishops.
Have these frescoes been renewed?
That's the name of the castle.
The fortress of Kurtvisi, situated on a cliff above the confluence of two swiftly moving rivers, is one of the oldest fortresses in Georgia.
Up on this.
The exact date of the foundation is unknown, but the fortress was certainly standing in the 10th century. The fortress was captured by the Turks in 1638 and became one of the most important cities of the Ottoman Empire. The castle towers certainly resemble the Crusader castles.
Quite a projection. This is along the river.
There are two secret passages that lead down this wall to the river. The Mikvari River runs through to Tbilisi.
Lesser Caucasus. The entrance to the caves at Vartsia.
Vartsia represents the apex of cave architecture.
A little over 10,000.
It is the culmination of a tradition that began in its secular
Elevation.
expression in the 5th or 6th century BC. These caves are at over 10,000 feet above sea level. This complex of man-made cave dwellings above the Mikvari River extends over 500 meters. Work began here in the late 12th century under King Georgi III.
Many caves in here. These caves were crushed, maybe in an earthquake or sheared off.
The difference in color reflects where the limestone cliff walls have collapsed.
Very majestic. I could say that a lot about Georgia.
We are some 6 miles from the Turkish
Down on the
border.
river. And coming up on the bell tower. About 12th century. Can't imagine just getting all this block up here.
While King Georgi III viewed this as a strategic stronghold to protect his region from the Turkish Sultanate, Queen Tamara, his daughter, created a monastery here and a center for Georgian culture.
And while others were eating, one monk always was reading from the Bible. You see its beautiful arches and special small tables for monks. And there was a hierarchy among them, and for ordinary monks, they would eat kneeling. And for Father Superior, usually there was something like an armchair where he sat and ate. Beautiful frescoes. Altogether, here in the outer room and inside the church, there are 33 compositions. So here we can see the 40 martyrs from Lake Sebastia. It is in Turkey territory. And one of them,
These frescoes are from the late 12th century.
instead of him, one Roman soldier went. So this thing was quite common. The Georgian you can find.
This fresco shows Queen Tamara and her father, King Georgi III. This is the earliest portrait of Queen Tamara, done before 1186.
Bus may leave them.
As conceived, the complex was a honeycomb of interconnected facilities, virtually invisible to a traveler or invader in the gorge below. The David Gureji Monastery is located in southern Georgia on the Azerbaijan border. The complex consists of several monasteries built between the 7th and 9th centuries. The monastic buildings, as well as the caves, are adorned with these beautiful murals.
What would we like to have?
Stopping for a bite to eat on our way to the Black Sea. Here is our driver, Boris. Boris, there are moose and squirrel.
Taking a picture.
Now she won't talk.
Nana is our interpreter. She is so cute.
She's not.
Hi.
Farm animals run free in the roads in Georgia, making driving treacherous.
Oink, oink, oink.
This is just the nicest boutique hotel right on the Black Sea. We are in the province of Ajar. This province contains the former kingdom of Colchis. Jason and the Argonauts supposedly came here to search for the Golden Fleece.
The Black Sea, looking towards Turkey.
Our room and balcony.
On the Georgian Black Sea. That's the people enjoying the surf, but not the people in those bombed out buildings. Oh, let's just come to the beach. Could there be grass in there that they're eating? What are they eating?
These are Caucasian shepherds. They can weigh as much as 190 pounds. These champion show dogs are owned by the governor of this Georgian province. Kiwi fruit.
Pipes dating back to the Roman times. Carry the water for irrigation. This is part of the inside of the fort, the village. That's what irrigation is. It's going out to Oh, there's Nana, boys.
And the land cruiser will take to Turkey.
And look who's on the beach. Never know what to find. It's the Romanov Palace. On the grounds at Borjomi. Spa. It's part of a spa, and this is also Stalin's
Headquarters when he was away from Russia.
This is very well preserved.
Built in the late 18th century.
Color. Soviets are not known. They're known for their bright, audacious colors. The walkway down to the palace. Romanov Palace. The lamp fixtures are beautiful. Beautifully ornate. like that's where they keep the water up there on top, huh?
That's what I think. It's a water tank.
By the son of former Viceroy of Georgia, Nicholas. So the Viceroy. Is one piece of marble, and it was a gift to the Romanos family, and comes from Napoleonic times. They say it was made by Napoleon himself. Grand Duke Nicholas was but naturally it's new. So original their piano, and especially interesting is this table. Beautiful ornaments, and it has been made by, can you guess? Peter the Great himself. Oh my God. So, yes, but it was
Stalin's desk. 1950. Yeah. Ceiling has all been restored.
You can't be smiling now.
I've been sitting at the table of Stalin in his
Commissariat.
Yeah.
Lady Commissariat.
Anne Marie is the attorney for AID.
This is his daybed. Why don't you? This is where he naps. Yeah. This is, yeah, there you go. All right.
In the Marianne or
Anne Marie.
actually, but the main entrance was from there.
Across the bridge.
The facade is also interesting. You'll see that.
Correct.